Hi everyone and welcome to Influence Colorist. This is what I colored in June and July. I felt like I didn't color very much in June, but July I definitely made up for it. So my first page is from Doodlers Anonymous Epic Coloring Book. I love the variety in this book. There are over 90 artists doing the illustrations. And the one I did for my video was one that I wanted to copy one of Dee Dee Willingham's pictures. She's worked a lot in this book, and I just loved this little fox on a unicycle. She doesn't show exactly how she did all of it. She shows a little bit of her coloring, so I kind of had to figure out how to do the rest of it. So I ended up cutting out the little fox and the balloons, and then doing the background separately, so kind of coloring over the background, and then gluing the fox back on, and then doing the clouds over the fox. So I used color pencils for the balloons and for the little guy here, and then acrylic paint and gouache to cover the rest. So this artist is Grace Ferraccio. All right, the next page is going to be from Worlds Within Worlds by Kirby Rosans, and this is the Unicorns in a Cage page. I also did a video on this, so I was influenced by the saturation app on my camera, where you can take your photo and change the saturation values. So I thought it would be a fun concept to play with on this page too. So everything in the cage is going to be very high saturation in color, and then all the outside areas are going to be gradually lowering the saturation. So it starts to end up more grayscale in the corners and on the outside edges. So fun concept to play with. Okay, next page is going to be from Desert Wonderland, A Serene Coloring Retreat by Rachel Reinhardt. So I'm not always experienced or confident enough to do a lot of skin tone or hair in my coloring books, but I thought this would be a fun one. I love to watch makeup tutorials, so I thought, well, why not try some eyeshadow tutorials to help me with the eyes and makeup. So I did use eyeshadow for the eyes, and a little bit of gold accent there in the corner really brightened things up. And I also used pan pastels for the skin tone and Prismacolors for the hair and flowers. I think it turned out really pretty. I watched the tutorial from Kinsey Mac Brown on a Frozen 2 eyeshadow. All right, my next page comes from Disney Silhouettes by Hatchet Heroes. And this one was colored during a Get to Know Me tag. I picked the Cinderella page because Cinderella is one of my favorite Disney princesses. And you can see the silhouette of the fairy godmother here. I really love the blues, and here the light blue of Cinderella's dress and clocks, and then the dark blue kind of splotches just to represent the night. And then we have little accents of orange and pink throughout. I used Prismacolors and fine liners and gel pens to get into these little tiny areas here. There is a silver gel pen just to kind of highlight some of the areas in there. Not sure if you're picking that up, but yeah, I really love the way this one looks. All right, this next page comes from Manic Botanic by Irina Vinick. I did not do this one on another video. I actually rarely color in this with my own coloring palette, my own coloring design. I tend to look at other artists and what they've done, and I don't know why. I think it's just because there are so many little lines in here that it can get really confusing, but it's also the illustrations are just so beautiful, and I always feel like if I see one that I like, then that's the one I want to do. I don't want to mess it up. But I did do my own design for this page. It's a sunflower, and it has these cute little birds. It has a couple of little flying bugs up there. And I used some alcohol-based markers. These are the Ohuhu brand. You just have to be careful because it does bleed through, as you can see. Actually, the back of where it's bled through looks really pretty. But anyway, just make sure you put something behind. I did use a Posca pen to get a little bit more textured inside this area for the seeds. And I wanted to do the sunflower page. I was influenced by our own sunflowers. So my daughter's favorite flower is the sunflower. And so I was inspired by that and just wanted to do this quick little page here in Manic Botanic. All right, my next project is a acrylic painting of my two dogs. I was influenced by those companies that you send in your pet's picture and they turn it into a famous piece of art. So I decided to do mine American Gothic since I have a male and a female dog, and their personalities just kind of fit with this painting. So I had worked with some kids doing an American Gothic drawing and coloring, so I thought, well, I can probably do a painting of it too. So I freehanded most of it and then painted. And then for the dogs, I did a tracing technique, which you can watch different videos on them, but I basically printed out the dogs' faces, the size that I needed. And then you trace over the important lines of the dog's face with pencil, and then you turn it over, scratch another pencil over that, and that kind of transfers your original pencil lines onto the canvas. And then you have the major lines and contour lines for you to paint. So that is how I did it, because I don't think I would be able to freehand the dogs. It was a nice summer project to do. Okay, now for my July pages. I was feeling patriotic and then remembered that I have this National Parks book. So I started this one on 4th of July, but it took me over a week to complete. This is Independence Hall, and I just use this side as my reference and try to copy as best as I can. So the book is Dowdle Doodles, National Parks by Eric Dowdle. So this book features his artwork on one side, and then on the other side is the coloring page. So you have this, just the line art, and then on this side is his artwork, and then you can use that for reference to color the page next to it, which is really handy. And then there are some other pages like this one that have a little bit different style to it, but most of them are like this. All right, just to show you a few more. And back to this one that I did. So it's a great idea to have the reference there, although it was very time consuming to get everything just right. So I think I did pretty good on the texture of the brick and the texture of the trees. All the little people are extremely time consuming, but I think it turned out really well. I think my version is a little bit lighter than his version, but overall I think it looks about the same. My next series of pages will be part of the Coloring Book Scavenger Hunt tag by Danny Buttons. I was tagged by Isabel's Life. For the scavenger hunt, there is a list of 11 items to find, and you'll decide if you want to find items you've colored or not colored. I decided to find items that I haven't colored, and that way I can use that as a challenge for myself to go ahead and color those items for the rest of the month. Well, I didn't quite make it to the end of the month with 11 items, but I got through quite a bit of them, so I'll show you those now. So my first item to find was a man, and I found this cute little lumberjack for my man page, and this is the book Doodlers Anonymous, and I used colored pencils and a little cloud stencil up at the top just to add another kind of dimension up there. I think it really makes the clouds look poofy, and again just adds another little dimension. All right, the next item is fruit, and I found that in Escape to Wonderland, a coloring book adventure illustrated by Good Wives and Warriors. I colored both of these pages, but the page on the left I did just to kind of practice some of the watercolor techniques that I wanted to use. This page over here is the page that I did for the fruit. So I loved the pineapple on here, and I used some water brush markers as a watercolor technique. So I could color directly onto the page and then use a water brush to kind of spread the water around, or I can use it on a little plastic sheet, coloring on the plastic sheet and then using the water brush to move the color around like this. So I really love kind of the rainbow effect that it created. And it was just a fun page to do. All right, the next item to find was a bee, and I found my little bees in the book Zoolande by Rita Berman. I used Prismacolor pencils, and I love the big orange slice, although you could do it as a lemon too. But then there's some pomegranate and kiwi in there, and then here's the 3 little bees. I think it just turned out to be this pretty summery page. All right, the next page I colored was from The Ink House by Rory Dobner, and the item to find was a page with words. So this is a coloring book, kind of storybook, so easy to find words on a page. So for this page, I followed a tutorial by Karen from Zucchini Kitty. She only does the frog, but I've seen her use distress inks for backgrounds in other videos, so that is what I used for my background. This video ended up becoming a lesson on how to fix or camouflage mistakes. I used a stencil to cover up and distress an out-of-place water brush mark that happened down here, and then a big blender up in the sky. So everything was turning out really well, and I was loving the sky and clouds, and then wanted to take it a bit further with doing the water spritz technique. So you take a water bottle and you spritz little droplets of water on the ink, and then you take a paper towel, dab that off, and it leaves kind of this kind of blotchiness to the sky. Well, when I took the paper towel, I didn't realize that I had red ink on it, and it ended up getting little red spots right there. So I had to figure out how to camouflage that, but I used some white gouache to cover that up. But overall, I think it turned out really well. I think the little red splotches here kind of camouflaged my mistake down there. So I ended up being happy with it. All right, next item is going to be a mythical creature, and I found that in Enchanted Forest by Johanna Basford. My mythical creatures are these 2 unicorns, and I was drawn to a color palette that I saved on Pinterest. It was actually something I had saved for just any unicorn page, but the print was more of an Art Nouveau style print. So the color palette was just really unique. I never would have picked those colors before. This is kind of like this peachy golden orange color, and then the background is a more kind of pink lavender tones, and then you have the blues and the unicorn. So I just thought it was kind of really stunning, different color palette, and I think it turned out really well. All right, next item is going to be Santa, and I found this in Winter from Rita Berman. Actually, I found it because I actually didn't have any books with Santa Claus, so I ended up buying this one pretty much just for the Scavenger Hunt, but Rita Berman is one of my favorite coloring book artists, so it wasn't like a big deal that I had to buy this book. So I was just surprised I didn't have any Santas. So I used some chalk pastels for the background. polychromos and Prismacolors for his robe, and then for the beard and all these little furry things lining his coat, I used gouache paint to kind of white out the lines, and then used color pencils to kind of really faintly do some shadowing techniques inside there. I used gouache for thickening up the little bristles, and I used some gold Prismacolors to kind of make this shiny, and some white Posca pens and white gouache to help fill in some of the little snow dots around here. So I just think he is the cutest little Santa, and yeah, I think he turned out really well too. All right, this next book, Lots of Dots, was a splurge buy thanks to T's World of Coloring. I saw in her last haul video. I don't have any color by number books, but this one really got my attention. The end result of the images colored by dots, I think, is so pretty. So you're not coloring by number per se, you're coloring by the outline of the dots. This was a practice page. On the left is the artist, and then on the right is mine. And just to show you close up here, this is the image, and it has all the circles color coded. So you just fill in those circles, and then you're left with the colored image like this. You can pretty much use any medium you want. I used color pencils for this one. And then on the first kind of actual page to color, the butterfly, I used some water-based markers and some gel pens. The front of the book has all the completed images, and then the back of the book has all the images to do. So you have the other ones as reference if you need to. So here again is a flower, and you can see all the little dots. Now you could decide to use your own colors if you didn't want to match up the original color. I just went ahead and did the same colors, although on this one I did add a gold gel pen on top of the orange color, and I think that turned out pretty. So yeah, this is a great relaxing book. No worrying about shading or anything like that. So if you want just kind of a mindless, relaxing coloring book, this would be a good option. Thanks for watching, everyone. Next month, I'll continue my work with the Scavenger Hunt to find and color. Please hit like and subscribe, and happy coloring.